Hello everyone, welcome once again to this edition of videos that we are going to use to learn some features in word processing. Right now we are looking at the feature called the tables, how we're supposed to create different tables and manipulate the tables according to certain questions that are set. So for today's session, I'm going to use a trial question, trial question number 4, which is about formatting tables to a specific outlook. So without wasting time, I'm simply going to go ahead and open the table so that we can skim through it very fast before we begin. Now, here is our question, and the very first instruction is asking us to create the table as it appears using a word processor application, and that is exactly what we are going to do. And later on, we are going to save it as our name hyphen table. Now, the table looks a little bit confusing, but here we are trying to test whether you can use the different kinds of features or options that we can use to come up with such a table. Now, as we move on to the second instruction, you'll actually see that it's telling us to copy the table to the second page, meaning we shall be creating a second page and then we shall insert a row above the first row and merge all the cells to form one row. Then in what we have already created in instruction number 2, we shall type the heading below and format it as it is below here. Launching ceremony for BAM United Group, proposed items. Then the second last instruction is asking us to give the table a boundary of 3D line style. That means we are not going to give it a border of 3D, we are going to give it a boundary, meaning something which is to demarcate that our table is within this boundary, meaning we're going to create it's actually indirectly asking us to give a page border, okay, to surround this table that we are going to create, and then we shall save our work and print a copy, right? So without any further ado, we are going to, without wasting time, we are going to start on this using with the first instruction asking us to create the table as it is and then save it. So first things first, I'll go back to my desktop and I'll create a folder. Though they haven't asked us to create a folder, it's normally good practice to keep your work in a folder so that you are organized and you can easily find it. So I'll simply go ahead and create a new folder by using the shortcut keys Ctrl Shift letter N, and I'll give it a name. This time allow me call it Awuzu, which is my name, and I'm going to move it close to our trial question so that we keep everything organized. So I'm going to go ahead and open that folder. Right now it's an empty folder, and in it I am going to create a new Word document by simply right clicking anywhere inside that folder and then moving on to the new option and then clicking on the Microsoft Office Word, because the table that we are going to create is going to be in a word processor as directed by the first instruction. So I'm going to give it a name as Awuzu hyphen table. Okay, that is how they had asked us to save it, and I'm going to press enter so that the changes are made. And right now it is an empty document because it has a size of 0 kilobytes, as you can see right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and open this document. Right now it is an open, it's opened already and it is already saved, but with nothing put in it. So meaning anything that we're going to add in it will simply be a matter of updating it by pressing Ctrl S as we are working. So I am going to start designing this table. In the previous lesson, or in the previous session that we had, I told you about the three types of the three methods of creating a table, and so I'm not going to go through that again in this table, in this new document, or in this session that we are looking at now. So I am going to move back to my question and analyze this table to devise a perfect means of doing this faster and easily. First, I'm going to consider the 4 columns because there are 4 columns, and the number of rows that I will insert. I am going to use a column which has the highest number of rows so that I can make this easier. Okay, so I'm going to count. It is the stationary column which has the highest number of rows, therefore I will create those number of rows as stipulated here. So I'm going to count Under stationery, we have the first row, second row, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. There are 10 rows in that. So I'm going to create a table which is going to have 10 rows and 4 columns. You'll see how this will make our work more easier. It will just be a matter of merging some cells and splitting others. Right. So to insert a new table, we have to move on to the insert menu and look for a data group called tables. In that data group, we click on an icon with an arrow, with that arrow point facing downwards, and then we can insert that table. I told you earlier on to get used to inserting it so that it is easier and faster. So the number of rows we are going to insert are 4, and the number of columns that we shall insert are are 4, and the number of rows are 10. And then I'll simply go ahead and click on OK. Right? So the first row is going to hold our field names, or what we call the table headers. These table headers tell us what the information in that column is about. Okay, they are very, very important. And according to our tables, we are going to use the table in our question paper to do this. Right? So I'm just going to go ahead and split my screen so that I can easily type these while looking at both of them. Right, so let me just adjust this. Okay, and let me also adjust this as well. Okay, so now I am going to start typing. Now before I type, I need to observe on our question that whatever I'm going to type as the header must be bold, as you can see. So before doing any other thing, I'll simply highlight the whole of that row, and I'm going to go ahead and bold it by clicking on the letter B, the bold icon, under the font data group and under home menu. Okay, this is going to help us make sure that everything we are going to type in this row is bolded. Okay, and everything, mind you, is in caps lock. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I type everything in uppercase such that it looks exactly like the table in our question, and that is what the table or the question is asking us to do. So I'm going to go ahead and type here hired items, next stationery, next I'll type reception, and then I'll type gardens. Okay, now after doing that, I'll move down. Just under the hired items, you can see that we have a list of items there, and it's a numbered list, meaning we're supposed to number a list of items. Those 2 items we are going to enter must be listed. Okay, must be listed and numbered. So I will use the paragraph data group to access how we can create the numbered lists, and this is the type that has been used in our table. So I'll go ahead and type the 200 chairs, 200 chairs, okay, and 12 tents. Right, then under the stationery we have 3 reams of papers. Okay, 3 reams has reams of papers. Okay, papers. And then under the reception, you can actually see that this is no longer an ordered list, it is rather an unordered list, and the unordered list is using bullets to list certain items. So I'm going to go ahead under the paragraph group, the paragraph data group, to select on the bullets that I can use, and the type they are using on the table is this type. So I've selected that, and I'll go ahead and start typing the items. Okay, there are 250 plates, and 200 cups. Right, then I'll move back down to the column or the field called gardens. Under it, I'm going to type the red carpets. Okay, red carpets, flowers, comma, arches, whatever arches are, I don't know, lights and other decorations, okay, and other decoration materials, okay, other decoration materials. That is that. So we have finished entering whatever is in the first row. Now when we move on to the second row, you'll actually see that the second row has been merged, okay, for the first column, the third column, and the fourth column. And as you can observe, gardens has been every cell under the gardens field has been merged. So why don't we start with that? Okay, so under gardens, I'm going to highlight the whole of that column, and then I am going to merge it. How do I merge this? Let me make sure that it's wide enough for us to see. After highlighting the column, to merge those cells, you can either use the layout menu, which appears as you're working on your table, to merge the cells easily, or you can simply right click on the highlighted column and then click on margins. Either way, the work will be done or the job will be done. Let's start with the first option of using the layout. When you click on the layout, you see different options of what you can actually do with the cells. The data group that we shall mostly be using here in this question is the merge document, the merge group, and probably also under the table design we shall be using the borders. Okay, so right now our interest is to merge these cells. So I'll simply click on layout, and under the merge data group there is an icon used to merge the selected cells into one cell. So when I click on that, it's going to merge everything just like that, very beautifully. The other alternative is by right clicking on whatever you have highlighted or all the cells you have highlighted and then clicking on merge cells. Either way, like I said, the task will be performed. So after doing that, we are going to move back to our question to see what we could actually do next. Now, when you look at reception, when you look at the column for reception, you can actually see that it has about, now I'm using the stationary column as reference to merge these cells. Okay, so when you look at reception, it has merged about 1 2 3 cells. Okay, 1 2 3 cells have been merged. So I am going to use that to merge all the cells. So those are 2 cells, 3 cells. I will do the same, right click and then merge. So I have merged reception. And then when we come back to stationary, you'll actually notice that under stationary, the first two cells have been merged. So I will simply go ahead and merge those first 2 cells. Okay, I will merge those first 2 cells. Okay, and then under the hired items, I will also merge I will merge 1 2. I will merge 2 cells. Okay, right before that, I will merge 2 cells under the hired items. I'll just go ahead and merge those 2 cells. Okay, and when you look at stationary, actually none of the cells have been merged. Okay, that's why I had to undo. So under reams of paper, maybe what I'll just do is to increase the size of the first row under stationary, so that it looks something like that. You can see bit by bit we are going to our destination. Excuse me. So under stationary, in the second cell, we are going to add the 12 manila papers. And then just below the merged cells and the hired items, we are going to add a music system, music systems, okay? And then just under manila papers, we are going to add 12 office glues. Okay, 12 office glue. Okay, remember to type the words exactly the way they appear in our table. Now, under hired items, immediately after the music systems, you can see that all the other cells have been merged up to the second last. Okay, up to the second last, all of those have been merged. So I'll go ahead and merge them as well. Right, I have merged them by right clicking on the highlighted and merging them. Then when we move down to stationery, just under the 12 office glue, we have 10 writing papers. So I'm going to go ahead and add those writing papers, and then we have the three packets of markers, and then we shall have the masking tapes. Okay, the masking tapes. Excuse me. Right, so we are left with about 3 rows under stationaries. Now in the third last row, you can actually see that that row has been merged with the cell just besides it in the next column. So I am going to highlight both of them and I am going to merge them. Now after merging them, inside a sentence has been typed, but before entering the sentence, allow me increase the size so that we can make it look exactly like what is in our table. So in there, I'm going to type venue expenses, and just below it, I will type the rent, and I will type other costs, and then just below it, those two cells have also been merged, so I will go ahead and merge them. Okay, I'll go ahead and merge them by right clicking after highlighting them and merging them, and in it I am going to type the fuel and travel costs. Right, okay. Now that I've done that, let us move back a little bit under the reception. Okay, meaning whatever is under stationery, we have finished it. Now under reception, just after those merged cells where we have entered the 200 cakes, 250 plates and 200 cups, we are going to type in drinks. Okay, drinks, and then just below drinks, you can see that the cell has been split. Okay, the cell has been split into two columns. One column which is empty and its size reduced, the other column containing the 3 boxes of mineral water. So I am going to go ahead and split that. How do I split it? Right, there are two types, there are two methods as well, like I showed you. One, you can use the layout menu to access the split cells icon, or you can simply go through the right click menu. Okay, so let's start with the right click menu. Now that I'm in that cell and I want to split it, I will simply go ahead and click on split cell. When I click on split cell, a small window pops up on our screen where we are supposed to specify the number of columns that we want to split it into and the number of rows. Right now we want to split it into 2 columns and we maintain the number of rows to be 1. So I'll simply go ahead and click on OK. Now you can see that cell has been split into 2. However, the size has been reduced for the first column, and then the three boxes of mineral water have been entered. That is one way. The other way we can do this is by right clicking in that cell to split. We right click in the cell and then we can click on split cells. So the same window pops out and we click on OK to split it into 2 columns, and then we can go ahead and reduce the size of the first column within that cell. Then in there, let us split our window again so that I can type while I'm seeing. I'll type in the 3 boxes of mineral water. Okay, the 3 boxes of mineral water. Now when you look at our table here, it is almost looking like whatever we have in our question, right? it is almost looking like whatever we have in our question. So what we are going to do is I am going to start varying the sizes of the columns and the sizes of the cells, so that the table looks exactly like our table on the left of our window. Okay, so you can see that under the first row, in the first row, the first field name has been entered. Okay, it has been the word items has been moved down. So what I will do, I will simply put my cursor in between the hired items and I'll press enter. Okay, I'll press enter so that the word moves a little bit down. Okay, hired items, so that it looks exactly like whatever is in our question. Okay, then I am going to reduce the size of the column. I'm going to reduce the size of the column such that we have something like that. Now you can see that our listed items, the listed items have been arranged to look like whatever we have in our table in the question. So I'll simply go ahead and increase the size of this a little bit. How much increase the size is entirely up to you. Okay, how much increase the size is entirely up to you. But as you can see, these listed items have been centered, okay, vertically they have been centered. So it is the same thing that I'm going to do. Okay, it is the same thing that I'm going to do. Or what we could do is to make sure that um, every other to make sure that we could do this in a way that we come back to align this text after we are done with changing the appearance. Okay, so next thing I could do is to make sure that the table headers have their borders given to them, and then the other borders as well. So I will simply go ahead, let me increase this. Okay, I will go ahead and select the whole of this row which is possessing our table headers or our field names, and then I am going to add borders to it. How can I do that? Under table design, we have a group called borders, which is going to help us make borders or change borders of our table or of our highlighted row. Now, what I would prefer a student to do, or what would I prefer any user of this application to do, is to access a window which is going to help you do everything to do with the table using table properties. So I like to use the table properties because everything you will do is going to be placed there. So I'll right click on the highlighted text or on the highlighted row, and then I will move down to table properties, and then that small window pops up in our screen, and I'll click on borders and shading so that I can access all the borders I can use. Right now our interest is to use, we are going to select a much bigger or a much 3 points. Okay, we are going to use 3 points so that we have something like that. But looking at whatever is being applied, you can see that it's going to apply this to a cell. So we have to change this to a table. It must apply this to the table. But when you look at the preview of how the borders will be applied, they are going to be applied for all the borders, including what is inside. But that is not our interest. We only want to apply this border surrounding the row, okay, the outside borders. So to ensure that when you move back to the settings column, the settings Windows pane or the settings pane, you can actually see that the kind of setting that we are looking for is called grid. So when you click on grid and you look at the layout or the preview, it is what we are actually looking for. Then you can go ahead and click on OK and OK. Oh, sorry. We are supposed to apply this to only the cells. Okay, we are supposed to apply this to only the cells. Supposed to apply this to the cells, not to the whole table. Sorry about that. Yes, we're supposed to apply it to the cell, and by default it recognizes it. So I'll go ahead and select the 3 points, and I will apply the grid. Okay, and then I'll click on OK and OK. Right, so now there we have added our border. Okay, then the next border that we might need to add is under the hired items. The cell which is containing the music systems has its upper border bolded. So that's what we are going to do next. What I'll do is I will select that cell, and then I'll go back to my table properties, and then under table properties I'll click on borders and shading, and then I'll select the points. Okay, I will select the points, and I am going to use the point 3 points. Okay, and this is something that you might need to know right now. When you look at settings under the borders and shading, you don't actually see a setting which allows you to apply the border to the upper one only. So what you are going to do is you are going to do it using the custom feature or the custom setting. So you'll first click on custom. Okay, click on custom, then select the 3 points. Okay, so that you can add that by clicking on the upper border, so that you can add it by customizing it. So when it's under custom, you can actually go ahead and add these borders by simply clicking on them, and then you can click on OK and OK. Right there we have our border added. And then the last border that we'll need to add is this right here. Okay, when we have already added two. We have added the two borders. We have added that. Okay, we have added that. We have added this. Okay, and now we need to add this other one here. Okay, now let's go and do that. Back to our document. It is this that we're targeting. Okay, it's this that we're targeting. So what I'll do, I'll simply go ahead and select that column. Okay, I've selected it. I've selected the cell, the column, the whole cell, and now I will go back to borders and shading through my table properties. Okay, and under that I'll click on borders and shading, and I will keep it custom. Okay, I will keep it custom. So I will give this. Remember, we're applying this to the bottom, so I'll give it the half. Okay, give it the half, so that when I change it to the 3-pointer, I'll add it onto the bottom border, and then when I click on OK and OK, we have our border right there. So now when you look at our table is actually almost looking like whatever we have in our question paper. So let me go back and split that screen so that we can have a look at our table more critically. Now, looking at the stationery. Okay, stationery, the column is a little bit smaller. Okay, so I'll go ahead and reduce the size by moving my cursor onto the borders for stationery, the right border for stationery, between the border between reception and stationery. I will move it by dragging it towards stationery. Okay, I will move it towards stationery. Okay, we'll move it towards stationery to reduce its size, just like that. Right, after doing that, you can actually see that reception now is even having a smaller column compared to the garden. So I'll do the same with the border between gardens and reception, so that it is something like that. Now our table is almost looking like that. The only thing we are left with is now to make sure that we align the text in these cells. When you look at the first cell, looking at the first cell, you can actually see that the text have been merged. They have been placed to the center, okay, vertically. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll select that cell, the whole of it. I'll right click on this and I go to table properties, where I can access how I can place my text. So under the cell tab, I will select center. Okay, I'll select center and I'll click on OK. So now it is center aligned vertically. Okay, then under stationery, we can actually see that whatever the first cell under stationery has been justified. Okay, it has been justified. How am I able to know that? The words have been spread so that they are fitting in the hole with it. So I am going to do the same. I'll highlight that text and then I'll justify it. How can I justify it? On my keyboard, I can actually use a shortcut key, Control plus letter J, to justify. Oh, after highlighting the word, under the home menu, there is justify. There's the icon for justifying in the paragraph data group. So I'll just click on it. Okay, I will click on it to justify it. Okay, I will click on it to justify it. Okay, so now it has been justified. Okay, so when I increase the size here, just a moment. Okay, it has been justified. Probably you don't see it applying because of the size of the text that we are using, and also the font style. Okay, but we have justified it, and the same thing is going to apply to this other cell which has the 3 boxes of mineral water. So I am going to first of all reduce the size of that. Okay, and then I will go ahead and justify this as well. Okay, I have justified it. Okay, this had already been justified. Okay, I have also justified this. And then what else do we need to justify? What else do we need to justify? I think we also need to justify this. Okay, we need to justify that. When you click on justify, it has also justified it. Okay, so we have justified all of those, but when you look at whatever is in the gardens, actually there's some space up there. Okay, so I'll create that space by entering it a little bit. Then for these other ones, I am going to center align them vertically. Okay, I will center align them vertically through the table properties. So when I go to table properties, under the cell, I will center align them like that. Okay, then I will make sure that my red carpet starts exactly in the same line with these other ones, just like the way it is here. You can see red carpets and 200 cakes, they're almost in the same line. So I will ensure that by doing that as well. Okay, I will ensure that by doing that as well. What else do we need to do? What else do we need to do? Right, I think our table is now looking exactly like the one in our question, except that I am going to change the font style to Times New Romans. Okay, Times New Romans, and I'm going to give it a font size of 12. Okay, a font size of 12, so that I can reduce this, and voila, our thing is there. Then I'll also need to, let me just reduce the size of this. Okay, and let me increase the size of this a little bit so that it looks like, and let me justify this as well. Right, so now we have a table that looks exactly like the one in our question. It looks exactly like the one in our question. Okay, the one in our question. Excuse me. Okay, all right, okay, I think we can now something is not right here. Yeah, something wasn't right here. Yeah, So that is our table. I need to make sure that these borders, I think the borders changed when I applied the last one. Borders and shading. Okay, let me add it there. Okay, all right. So our table looks exactly like the one in the question. So like I told you, we shall always just keep on pressing Ctrl. We shall keep on pressing Ctrl Z. Okay, we shall just keep on Ctrl S to save. We use Ctrl S to save. Now we have saved our work onto our computer. So we can move on to the next instruction. Back to our question. The next instruction is for us to copy the table to the second page and then insert a row above the first row and merge all the cells to form one row. So I will do that by first of all selecting the whole table, clicking on that icon on the top left corner of the table, highlights the whole table. We can as well use it to move the table around in our document page. So I'll simply go ahead and okay, now that I have copied that table, I am going to paste it in a new page, and that page I am just going to create it by inserting a new page by going to the insert menu and clicking on blank page, and then I'll go ahead and simply paste it there by pressing Ctrl. Sorry, let me copy it. Copy the table, and I am going to paste it in this new page that I have created. So my table is right there. And when you look at the instruction in our table, in our question, it says copy the table up to the second page and insert a row above the first row and merge all the cells to form one row. So the first row is this row which has our table headers. So I'm going to highlight the whole of it so that I can insert a row above. Okay, so I have inserted a row right there. I've inserted a row, and that row is supposed to merge all the cells. Okay, I'm going to merge all of these cells in that row. Okay, by right clicking after highlighting them and moving back to our question paper, merge all the cells to form one row. That is what we have just done. Then in it, type the heading below and format it as it is down here. Okay, so I will simply go ahead and type whatever is given to us there. So it's in capital letters or it's in uppercase. Launching, we are launching ceremony for Bamboo United Group proposed items. Okay, all right, we have done that, and then we are supposed to make sure that it has a half point. Okay, the border style is half style. So I'll go ahead and change the border style, okay, by going through table properties, borders and shading, and then selecting the half point, okay, and then clicking on okay and okay. So right there we have our right. Then we're supposed to give the table a boundary of 3D line style. So we are going to insert, just go ahead and first of all select the whole table, and after selecting that whole table, we are going to go to the table properties. Under table properties, we are going to insert borders and shading as well, but we are supposed to give it a boundary. Now when you look at the borders applied to tables, you don't see any option for the 3Ds, meaning we're supposed to add a boundary in form of page border so that we can use the 3D style. And here we can change this the style of the border so that we can actually make it look like the one in that icon. So I'll simply select that, and there it is. Okay, and there it is. I'll click and say OK and OK. So when you look at our page border now, it has the boundaries, okay, around the table, which is what exactly we want. And then the last instruction is for us to save our work and print a copy. Okay, so we are going to save our work. Just a moment. I see it has applied a boundary to both pages. So I'm going to undo, because our interest is to apply that to only the other page which contains the second table. So we are going to apply page border. It's going to be 3D, and the type of line that we are going to use is this one here, which has double lines, and we are applying it to this section all except the first page. And then I'll click on OK and OK, so that the boundaries are only applied to our table in the second page, leaving our first page without the boundaries. Okay, so that is how we are supposed to answer that question. We have come to the end of that question, and it has helped us understand how we can make changes to the appearance of the tables that have been given to us. If this question or if this session has helped you in any way, please like the video and subscribe to this channel.